Out of the room or what?
That wasn't the kind.
But we don't have it. I'm telling Michelle, I don't want to start it until we have it open.
Oh, it's just one.
You don't have another screen in there?
No, we do not. Sorry.
Okay.
That's why I was trying to text really fast.
Do you love it?
Really, really good.
And again, we'll get you a keyboard. It's coming in a couple weeks.
And the agenda, the packet that you sent to me is also here.
Yes, it should be in your email. You can even download it. I have a hard copy if you want.
Mara, what do you see on the screen?
Yeah, mountains, and it says, you know, connect the Wi-Fi, present wirelessly, or present, sorry. It says you're connected, but all it says. I just realized it right before you started the meeting, sorry. Ah, there we go. Thank you, Michelle. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We had a few technical difficulties, but at this time we will begin the pre-meeting for Adrian City Commission on February 21st. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Roberts.
Present.
Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Strayer.
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry.
Present.
Commissioner Gao.
Present.
All commission members present.
And at this time, I will hand it over to City Administrator Greg Elliott, who will be joining us via Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've had a couple occasions to discuss our plans for the new farmers market this year, but we were not able to have our new market master present for those discussions. And so I invited him to this evening's pre-meeting. I think he may be there in person since I'm not, I can't tell.
He's here.
He's here.
Okay, good. It's working out the way we planned. And he has a PowerPoint, I think, for you that we're going to put up, and he's going to go through and explain his vision for the market this year. Already well underway with that, and I thought you would enjoy hearing about it. So I'll turn it over to Jay if he's there.
He's here and he's ready to go for this presentation, it looks like.
First of all, thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to present to you what's going on at the market and what we're planning on doing. I apologize I couldn't have been here to other meetings. I'm an Adrian school board member, and we had a pretty important task of hiring a new superintendent. So we were able to do that successfully, and I think everyone was pleased. Like I said, I'd like to share the vision. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Born and raised in Adrian, graduated from Adrian High School, moved away for a short time, graduated with Mayor Heath. I moved back, became a member of the school board, married first, kids, school board currently, and we currently have a business that we operate, going to be opening here in downtown Adrian later this spring. So I also want to thank Michelle for her guidance and assistance so far with everything that's been going on. She's been a great help, and I couldn't have got as far as we have without her help and support. So next slide, Michelle. So we started off, did a community survey. So right after we had the contract in place, we did a community survey. Did it through the norm. First, why did we do it? We wanted to get buy-in from the community for the local farmers market. We wanted to establish a voice of the customer so we understand what they're looking for. And we also wanted to ensure that the direction of what I envisioned for the market was what the community envisioned. And we did it through like a simple 5-question survey, promoted it through multiple outlets on Facebook. So the city Facebook page, we have a market Facebook page, it has about 415 followers now, and other various local groups. So in the 3 days that it was out there, we got about 129 responses. So it was pretty good response considering the short time and really the short scope of what we had available. So the next page, next one, Michelle. So results. We had a vision for the day, so we wanted to make sure we were aligned with that. Over 70% of the customer, or 70% of the respondents said they wanted to be on Saturday. Now, there were some variations that some would like a little bit longer than we proposed, but it wasn't overwhelming. So we're proposing from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I think that's what we're going to stick with. That's very traditional farmers market times and days. Vendor types. So we posted a range of about half a dozen, maybe more, and you have an option to put in a type of vendor that you would like. Overwhelmingly, fruits and vegetables was number one. Everybody said that. And then second was baked goods or fresh or food vendors, so baked goods, things of that nature. And then food trucks was number three. And then flowers, plants, and then crafts. We're actually after that. The last thing that we talked about on there were events. So one of the important aspects is to have events during the farmers market to keep people there and keep them going. Live music was the number one, with 80% of people wanting live music. Cooking demonstrations was second. So we've got some ideas with that. And then it was children events. About 45% responded that they wanted to see either book reading or the nutrition program that we're working on as well. Next slide. So our first year goals. We're hoping to have 13 seasonal vendors. We're hoping to have at least 4 food trucks. We're looking to have music and events every single week. And I just happened to see Jerry right before I came in, and the Croswell is committed to participating. So that's a big win for us. We want them to be a focal point considering they're right across the street. And then we're looking at sponsorships. And the goal is to have 1 major sponsor and 2 event sponsors out of it. I've had some preliminary conversations with some potential sponsors, and they're very receptive to that. So some other things that we're looking at on there we'll go with this part of it, right? We're going to be tracking attendance. We're going to be tracking vendor participation, and we're also going to be tracking the direct economic impact. So we're going to have our vendors supply us anonymously with how much sales they have. So we can provide that back to say, we know that this market created this direct economic impact. Steering committee, I'm looking, I would love to say that I could do it all, but I can't. And I don't have all the ideas. So I'm looking at getting some vendors, some food, vendors, farmers, food truck, potential sponsors, a representative from the city to be on a steering committee. It would be ad hoc. It wouldn't be a monthly kind of thing. It would be like an initial one, maybe one in the middle, and then one at the end to just follow up. So not a big commitment, but enough to provide input and give them outlet. So if something happened, the vendors had a voice, they knew who to talk to. Community outreach. So a couple things that I've already been gaining traction with. I've reached out to the library. They're very excited and want to participate, doing some children's programs and possibly some adult reading groups. I've reached out to LASD, and we're going to continue to have a conversation to see if we can get their culinary program to come do the food demonstrations. I've reached out to the MSU Extension Office, and they're interested in coming down to at least once a month to bring their information to help with whether it's the cottage food law or canning canning processes, things they can do to help the vendors and the public as well. And then we're going to be reaching out to other organizations along those aspects as well. Let's see. We're going to start probably, and I'd have to reach Michelle to find out for sure, but the discussion was to start advertising for vendors at the end of this week with a meet to start recruiting them. And then with an organizational meeting in mid-March, and then probably next week we'll start recruiting food trucks. And there's a larger plan for the food trucks to help them with the commitment initially. So if you commit initially to the farmers market, that will guarantee you to be a food truck at First Fridays at the pavilion. So we want to get them in and get a little buy-in from them, so everybody gets a little bit of give and take there. And then one more, I think there's one more maybe question, but one last thing, we'll be recruiting we'll be soliciting volunteers to come help. I can't do it all by myself. And I think we'll be reaching out to the service club, allowing them to present their booths and what their missions are to see if they want to come along the way.
And this logo will be your branding on everything for the.
Yeah, that's going to be our branding for everything for the farmers market, keeping with the colors and very similar to the city. Question?
What's a normal beginning time or starting time for most markets.
9 a.m.
I mean, no, what time? Of the
Oh, what time? So it's in May, and it varies from the beginning of May to the end of May, those Saturdays.
Mhm.
We're looking at starting the weekend before Memorial Day to kind of let the weather set in a little bit. And then going to that first weekend in October, because the second week in October, there's a large event in Tecumseh, and we don't want to battle with that.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
that sounds
It really
good.
does. It sounds like right up what we were, at least what I was thinking of what we wanted you to do. So you
Great.
did a good job.
You've done a lot of work in a short amount of time.
Yeah, we've been busy, you know. I do have to thank Michelle. She's really been a great help, and I know we've already got a website, already on the city website. We've got some information. We'll be posting the vendor application soon. The sponsorship information will be going up there as well. And so, and if you want, I've got some sponsorship information. If anybody wants to see it after the meeting, I can certainly provide that to you as well.
Like most everything else, it just takes someone to commit to having that vision and getting it done. And so we appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity.
I love the idea of the events down there. And I think getting children's events down there is a great draw. Yeah, so what we can do to get them down there, their parents will come.
Yeah, the McDonald's theory, right? In case the parents come.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, thank you. I know that you and Michelle put in a lot of time because she was telling me the other day. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, I think one thing I forgot to add. We joined the Michigan Farmers Market Association, and through that, they help us with the EBT program, the Double Up Food Bucks. So we'll be offering that as well. There's a senior program as well. So we're really trying to make it as accessible for everyone as possible. Great.
Yeah, I'm excited for what you're gonna do with it. I mean, like I said, we adopted it and then allocated funds, and you went running with it. So there's not a doubt in my mind you're gonna make it be successful in a short period of time. So looking forward to it.
Say I like baked goods. So baked would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Jay. I wish I had been there to see it in person, but it sounded great. Our next item on tonight's pre-meeting is a further discussion of the what we've been calling a point of sale inspection ordinance. Commissioner Helt was able to get a version of that from the city of Southgate, which he distributed to all of you a couple weeks back now, I guess. Just before the meeting, I sent you some numbers that Kristen developed as well, just to give you an idea what we would be talking about in terms of the number of sales. If you saw that, it's varied somewhat over the years. Of course, we had pandemic years, but 475, 500, 600 residential sales over the last 3 years. Commercial 75, 75, and 50. About a dozen industrial sales. A point to discuss is whether or not we would include all properties. My inclination would be to do that. It doesn't add that many to the list, and I think the same rationale in terms of the exterior appearance of properties would apply. I don't know, Commissioner Helt, is there something you wanted to do to introduce this before I say any more about it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for a couple months now, and the main component of this is to slowly get our properties up to code and standards, right? So I appreciate our assessor, Kristen Brown, getting this data, because when you go forward with stuff like this, potentially you want to get 3 years worth of sales in your jurisdiction, like transactions. So the reason why you want that is because when you bid out the vendor that's going to be doing the inspections, you usually give them an average. So they can bid out a somewhat of an accurate number of what the retainer fees and the cost. So, and like I said in my email, like, this is Greg's department, this is Greg's wheelhouse. So he knows a lot of these companies that provide this service. And actually the email he sent to Lad and I was, he even got more creative with it. When it comes to potentially keeping some of this in-house or somewhat local. I just want to make my position clear. This is not anything to hinder sales when it comes to selling properties. That's why if you read the, which I'm sure you did, the vendor that won that won this particular city's contract, they're in their city hall for 3 days, 3 8-hour days a week. And essentially that gives them time so that, if you have an issue, you can have it re-inspected. So people got businesses, families, and all that. So we're not in the business of holding up sales. So I'll just read the initial, when it comes to the code of the point of sale is the purpose of the article was to help protect the health and safety and welfare of the citizens by attempting to prevent blight, avoid the creation and maintenance of a nuisance, and ensure minimum maintenance of dwellings through recognition of how conditions are set forth in the article can affect the general well-being of the property values of residents. Again, I'm all for everybody's rights as long as they don't infringe upon mine. So I don't want to, it's not fair to some of our citizens that, live next to a dwelling that's not the code, broken windows, scraping paint, hole in the roof. So this is a component of, we're essentially putting like probably 3 officers on the street additionally, that's going to be cost neutral to the city. The retainer fee and this particular company, how they had structured was 60% of the point of sale inspection goes to the company. The 40% essentially goes, the city keeps to pay for the retainer fee. So it's gonna be cost neutral to the city. But this is more of an educational code change more than anything to make sure that we assure that the people that have real estate companies that we're not in the business of slowing down sales. So I think it's a step in the right direction. It's a step to get our dwellings up to code really, really quick, essentially. So people can say we're diving in too quick, but when we get challenged year on about blight, so here we are. So my thing is, let's do something about it. This is one of the things that are that downriver, the whole downriver area has the same code. So and Southgate was one of 2. Brownstown is not done yet, but they're in the process of doing it now. So every other city in downriver has it because they had a historically blight issue. And whether it be Wyandotte, Southgate, Trenton, all these communities, once they adopted this, they again, there's an educational piece to some of the businesses in the community when it comes to real estate to ensure them that this is going to increase property values and it's going to be better overall quality of life for the citizens who live in the neighborhood. So I can answer any questions if you guys got any. Or
what's the timeline look like? So, someone gets a contract with a house. What does the timeline look like for this inspection?
My friend Dustin, who's city administrator in Southgate, said it's because he did a lot of research because he was dealing with it. So he said it's relatively quickly. So you get an inspection, like, so say I buy a house from Lad. I'm going to buy a house from Lad. A lot of people flip houses. So it's like, they know that, there's houses on Main Street that somebody just bought that they're currently working on. So once the sale goes through, you have 6 months. So if the sale falls through, you don't, and then Kelly wants to buy Lad's house, then that's not, you don't have to get it re-inspected because you have a 6-month window. It's already been inspected. But if I was a flipper, I can sign a notarized affidavit saying that, that Lad, hey, I know that we need new windows because there's 3 that are broken. I know your porch is falling in. I'm taking on responsibility as the buyer now. Because a lot of people do that for a business, which is great for the city too, because they're flipping properties that need significant maintenance on. So this is most cities do exterior first because they want to get a handle on just the processes, dealing with the vendor that does it in the outside. Whatever vendor that wins the bid will essentially answer to Greg and that department. So, but it's, to answer your question, it's relatively quick. So
I sort of think this is step 2 in our process of dealing with blight. Jake is sort of taking on those rental inspections. He's done a great job, and we're starting to see the fruits of his labor now And now this will be a very good step two.
I've had 2 citizens at least in the last month send me pictures of houses, their porches more so.
Yeah.
They know that things are changing, and so, when Jake goes into something, because Glenn was a one-man show for X amount of years, and you can only be pulled so thin for so long, and you're going to get behind. No fault to him, but that's just the way it works, right? We got over 5,000 homes in the city and half are rentals. One man or woman cannot do that on their own. So having Jake in the field is a key component. Hiring Leslie is a key component because that frees up Glenn. And then this is like we're adding literally like 4 or 5 because you figure, if you look at the email Greg sent from Kristen, we're over 400 homes each year. Even COVID year, there's 400 homes sold. So that's 400 homes, at least say conservatively, that will at least have an exterior inspection to make sure that it's up to code. It's not going to cost us a dime. So
the contractor that we're looking at is only doing the inspections.
That's it.
Well, so I have some ideas as it relates to that. As Alan said, I shared some thoughts with he and Ladd, who sent me this originally. But Kristen and I were talking. So first of all, the community development department, we do employ, not the right word. We utilize independent contractors for most of our construction inspections. We have only one employee who's an inspector, and that's Tony. The mechanical, plumbing, electrical inspections are all done by independent contractors, and they're local guys that will do a few communities. And we have others who have interest in being, if they can get registered as an inspector, but there are certain minimum criteria as it relates to the construction codes, not for the property maintenance code, but as it relates to construction codes, they are interested in that kind of work. Normally people who have background in that particular trade. So as Kristen and I were talking, she also has a need to put eyes on, and you jump in at any point that I run astray here, Kristen, but she has a need to put eyes on 20% of the houses or structures, properties, I should say, in town each year for her purpose, for her assessing purposes. That's not a detailed sort of inspection. That's not an interior inspection. It's very similar to what this inspector would be doing with the exterior. Maybe taking pictures of the exterior, taking some measurements. But I think that's probably about all she would need out of this process. And it would make a lot of sense to me if we could find a person or persons who could do both, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The numbers are such that they're going to, that this inspection, this point of sale inspection, will accomplish a lot of what she needs to accomplish in any given year in terms of looking at properties fresh, each assessing year, just by virtue of what would be required based on the number of sales that we see in a year. And so I think that could be quite an opportunity, if we can find the right kind of person. And I am far more of a proponent of finding that local person who likes to do a few communities. You get better responsiveness in my experiences, and you don't have, those people don't have the overhead associated with them that a Carlisle Wortman or a McKenna or a Safe Built or any of those companies. Those people, I use myself as an example. When I used to do planning consulting work as a sub-consultant, I got $50 an hour and I was billed out at $100 an hour. So, if you can just find the inspector themselves, you're getting a much better value in my experience. And I think we have some people who, and so then the other component of that would be Tony, being the building official, has substantial office work that he needs to do. And yet he does pretty much all the field inspections that are building inspections as well. If we could find a person, and there are such people around, who would be qualified to register as a building inspector, then that person could also back him up with field work from time to time. It really could be a win-win-win kind of situation, the way I see it. Kristen, is there anything you wanted to add to what I said about your needs?
No, I think you pretty much hit that. I guess the only thing that I would want to stress is, with because we kind of went through this recently with the new rules that the state had implemented with the assessing reform. One of the AMAR checks that when they come through is that this 20% is being met every year. So we have, roughly 7,000 real properties in the city. I physically should be inspecting 1,500 of them a year. For one person, it's just not super feasible. And so to have, an extra person that can kind of help take that workload, and you hit it on the head as far as what we need. We really truly need just an exterior inspection, a couple of pictures, and then that way we can meet that standard and the state doesn't come in and slap our hands for it.
Right.
And this is like, when it comes to this code change, I don't really care who does it, really. I mean, so Greg got creative with the email he sent last night. I thought it was a great idea. If we can find said individual, but our position as a legislator is just changing code or creating ordinances and then letting him get creative with it. So I don't have a problem with that at all. So I just want it done. That's more my position on it. So
I have a question for Kristen. How do you come up with those 20% of houses?
As far as which properties to inspect, the state doesn't put parameters on that. So the idea, the thought process behind this is that after every 5 years, you will have visited every property within your jurisdiction. And that also puts you into a situation where you can avoid having to do a reappraisal, which we had to do back in 2004, 2005, where you have to hire an outside firm to come in and inspect every property and make sure that your records are up to date and accurate. So, the longer that you go from visiting a property, the more chances that they've put a shed up in the backyard or they've built a deck without pulling a permit or something like that. So that's how things get missed and how your records become out of date. But the state doesn't dictate which records we do, and on an annual basis, I spend a lot of my time going out on the building permit side of things because that's where the most value is added. But realistically, going out on the sales should be happening as well. It's a time management issue with everything else that is needed for me to process data and, office work as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
And you will find that because Dustin did tell me that once they adopted it, they would send, Carl and I would go to a property and there's a huge deck out back. And then they look like there's no permit pull. And it was sagging and all this. And so you're gonna get a little bit of that too, because some folks will try to skate the rules a little bit. It's like nobody likes to pull permits, but it's the right thing to do, so you will find a little bit of that also. So
Ellen, I asked you in my email, do we know if any of these municipalities that are using this ordinance have had court challenges?
Not to my knowledge, because like I said, I've only dealt with Dustin and then I've also talked to Mark from Wyandotte, the former redevelopment director there. So he had said they both have said no, but Southgate's really, really new. I mean, we're the legislative body, so we can create code changes and
sure
majority vote. So.
John, do you have any concerns about? I assume you've read the ordinance or the proposed ordinance, or the existing ordinance. Have you got any concerns about that?
No. Good evening, commissioners, Madam Mayor. I don't. I'm a huge proponent of certificates of occupancy. 90% of the jurisdictions with whom I work have them in place for both exterior and interior portions of the home. The only thing I would note is that if the city goes out, if we retain subcontractors, so to speak, as inspectors, we want to make sure of two things. Number one, that they agree to an indemnification provision with regard to their inspecting on behalf of the city, and two, that they have some form of liability insurance in which the city of Adrian is also listed as an additional insured, because there are a few decisions out of the Michigan Court of Appeals and the Michigan Supreme Court, unfortunately, where inspections have gone bad, so to speak, and some inspection is missed on an electrical item that subsequently causes a fire and the like. They turn around on gross negligence principles and attempt to sue the city and the inspector. Those cases are few and far between, but they're high dollar cases. Several of them have been brought in the last several years. The ordinance needs to be tweaked a little bit. Southgate has a very good ordinance. For disclosure, I do a lot of legal work for the city of Southgate, but needs to be tweaked just a little bit. In principle, it's very good.
Thank you.
I saw there was a question in chat as to what we mean by point of sale. And I mean, I think that simply means when a property sells, that it needs to be inspected at that time as a condition of, essentially as a condition of sale. And there's a procedure whereby the sale that Commissioner Helt was describing, whereby the sale could still go through if the purchaser is taking responsibility. But it remains to be seen what our actual ordinance will say. We're looking at an ordinance right now that was developed for the city of Southgate, as was mentioned. Is there any other discussion amongst the commissioners related to the ordinance? Do you want me to work up a draft that would be your ordinance to consider? Would you like to have further discussion at pre-meeting about that before we put it on the agenda for action? How would you like me to proceed?
I'd like you to proceed. I don't think I need another pre-meeting.
Yeah, you can get with John, then you guys can talk about the tweaks that he was talking about, and then like I said, John dealing with 90% of the communities he deals with has this. I think gives us a leg up on tightening up and making it our own too. So I like to see you proceed, but
But I agree that you need to kind of refine when using John's suggestions, but make sure it's like you said, our ordinance, and because you may think of things that nobody else has thought of that we need to include there. I think that John's suggestions were very good, but I agree. I don't think we need another pre-meeting. If we can have time to review your revised draft, then that's something we can take to a regular meeting, I think.
Okay. All right. We will work on that. Mayor, those were the only two items I had scheduled for the pre-meeting. If you want to see if the commissioners have any other items before we go to public comment.
I have one item I'd like to bring up. Probably everybody in this room knows Roy Gonzalez, who was a teacher, Adrian Public School System for probably 30 years. He reached out to me one day this last week in regards to Greg Adams' death. And he was wanting to, and I should also say, Roy reached out to Jeremiah also. And he was wanting to have a bench in honor, downtown in honor of Greg. But I guess the bench program is not in place anymore. I don't know how that worked the first time around, but I think that those benches were all purchased at one time and then they were put in place. And I don't know if there's anything in place to add to those benches or just how that works. And so I guess I'm hoping Greg might have an answer there. So if we...
Well, I can answer that piece, Commissioner. Sorry to interrupt. Jeremiah and I have talked about the idea of having a plaque and tree planting program in lieu of the benches, because the benches, there's only so many places you can put benches, right? And there's a lot of benches around, and there are maintenance issues with the benches as well. They get in the way of cleaning the snow and so forth. So we thought, there's an unlimited number of places you can plant memorial trees. And we thought that might be a nice replacement for the bench program.
I like that idea. I have one other idea, and I don't know how this will go over with everybody, but I mean, I know up in Detroit, there's like Alkaline Boulevard, but it's not really the name of the street. It's a Memorial Street, memorial name. And I had thought, well, if there was an issue with the benches, that possibly that was an idea. I hadn't thought about the plaque of the tree. But I thought about the Memorial Street, because I know that every year when we have the run, I mean, it always starts at the farmer's market. And I thought that the street out here would be a good place to do that if it's something that people are interested in. And I didn't know Greg very well. I mean, we had contact with each other over the years, but the thing that always impressed me was everybody talks about wanting to make a difference, but this is a guy who really did.
Yeah.
And I think he deserves the recognition, and however we do it. And I didn't know if by doing sort of like an honorary street name, I didn't know what it was involved in doing that. I know we've talked about these types of things before, but.
Yeah, we did talk about that at one point with former Mayor Jacobson. He had that idea as it related to Sienna Heights, although and I think what he told us at that time was that his original idea was to rename a street in town, but I think he concluded that you could do what you're describing, a Memorial Street, without having to change the actual street name and the address. You do see that in cities around where there's sort of dual naming for certain streets for that purpose. I don't know procedurally. I don't think Matt's on the call.
We adopted a policy about that, naming streets and stuff. Yeah, so former Commissioner Watson was on that committee that came up with that policy.
But he was actually talking about renaming a street. I'm not talking
yes,
it wasn't a.
Yeah,
not
Did
taking
we ever
name
install on Sienna Heights Boulevard the Cesar Chavez recognition sign?
Not that I'm aware of. That's why I say I don't know that ever came to fruition. I'm not aware of that happening.
Never came up for a vote.
Okay, well, that's something.
I think regardless, like Lad said, it's like I think we need to do something for him, because like I said, he did make a difference and well deserving of that recognition. So whether it be a plant with a plaque or whatever, I think that
I think Jeremiah and I can get back to Roy, because I know Roy has a number of people who are sort of behind him on this, and sort of throw these ideas out and see what they think.
Yeah.
That'd be good. I think I talked to Greg quite often in the last year and a half since I met him. You mentioned the farmer's market, Toledo Street being a start. I think the plan was to have the starting point downtown this year. I think we had that conversation. Not that makes a big difference on where we do the tree or whatever it is we end up doing. That's that. What I haven't heard, and it's too soon to know, whether they're going to continue the whole race program, and if so, who's going to pick up the mantle and run with that? Nobody will do it as well as Greg. I don't, you can hire anybody, or not hire. You could get anybody to do it, but topping what Greg has done over the last 6 or 8 years is phenomenal.
I agree. My wife and I talked about that. I'm like, I don't know where you're going to find that person, because he went and talked to every group individually. And so
it went from this to this.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And I think the reason of the success is Greg. I said this to Stephanie's fiance. I said, tenacious is what I would say about Greg, because Greg literally would call me every couple days. Okay, are we still okay with this? Are we still okay? And I said, Greg, nothing changed. I promise. I'm gonna have these people here for you. I promise. I'm following through. I promise. But that's the reason it was successful, because if you don't follow up with somebody like that, there are people that will let it slide if they're not reminded. And he really, so he dedicated so much time to it. I worry as well, because who can devote that much? I mean, he was so dedicated.
Oh, absolutely. And he did take those daily runs. Just a quick story about Greg, though, is he had asked, because he knows all of us tend to know a lot of people. And there was one in particular individual that he wanted to be introduced to. And so I set up a meeting thinking that, because this guy's an investor, that Greg was looking for contributions. And I got there, and that wording, he was looking for participants. He was looking for somebody that could reach out to other organizations and put together running teams and that kind of stuff. That was what his primary focus was not the monetary contributions, but it was the contributions of participants. So that was really impressive too.
And the monetary part comes once you have the.
Absolutely.
He understood that.
Absolutely. And he did a lot to he reduced, in some cases, reduced the entry fees certainly for kids, didn't pay as much, but yeah, you're right. It has grown into a major event for Southeast Michigan. And I just hope that it continues.
I think his purpose came in the title, right? His purpose was not to raise funds, but to erase the stigma.
That's right.
Mental health is negative.
Create an awareness.
And that's truly phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
The committee at this point plans to continue the race.
That's good to hear.
That. And since his passing, we have gained a few members to our committee in
Great, that's good news.
It'd be really nice if we could, if there is, whatever it is that is decided to dedicate in his memory, it'd be really great if that's something that could happen at the beginning of the race. I mean, I know that's quick because that's May and that's not that many months away, but wouldn't that be awesome to even have that? Because I feel this race will probably be one of the largest because of Greg's passing. More people want to participate. I've already been hearing that from people. So thanks.
That's good to hear, Mary. Thank you.
Anything else?
I just wondered if, Greg, were you able to reach out to ProMedica, and speaking of mental health and what it looks like in our community, and such a great loss for our community when it comes to erasing the stigma of what mental health looks like. Were you able to hear back from ProMedica and community mental health about the plan or what that looks like in our community?
Yeah, well, so I reached out to Catherine Suchuk and Frank Nagel. Frank is has been very eager to participate, and I asked for 3 weeks to find the right people from his organization to participate. Catherine, I got my second "Why are you doing this?" email from her today, which I wasn't able to answer today because I was out of the office, but I will tomorrow. Seems more resistant than Frank, honestly, to the discussion, but I'm continuing to work on it. I really think both those organizations should be represented at the pre-meeting.
Okay, thank you for following up on that.
Sure.
I have one item I want to bring. Does everybody get this from MML? I assume they do. Sometimes I read it, sometimes I don't. I happen to read this issue. There's an article in here about the city of Midland, and they created, modeled after some other municipalities, the Midland Citizens Academy, where, again, I'm not going to go a lot of detail. Maybe we can talk about it in a future meeting, but the idea of is to invite members, or I guess there's applications that for about 20 spots, for lack of a better term, per class. I think it runs about 10 weeks, a day a week. Or they take these citizens, private citizens, they tour our facilities, DPW, the water plant, all that stuff. And they listen to department heads talk about what their departments do and everything. The idea was obviously to get the community more engaged and a better understanding of what it is we do and what the departments do, so that they can share that. So far, they've graduated, I think, over 300 citizens from the academy over a course of a couple of years. So I just want to throw that out, that you know, perhaps when the time is right, we might want to consider the same type of program. Just a thought, but I was very impressed when I read the article. So if you've still got the magazine and you haven't had a chance to read it, please do. If you don't have the magazine, I can shoot copies of the article and scan them, send them over.
How long have they been doing it?
I think it does. Let's see, they got a new mayor in 2009, and that's when they came up with the idea. So I'm going to guess 10 years.
So
That's a guess.
the plan has proven itself out then.
Oh, yeah.
It's time
Yeah.
tested.
Yeah, it has. And again, if 10 years is the right number, and again, I don't think it's stated in here when it started. I'm sorry, it is here. They had their inaugural class in 2007. So they've graduated 337 students, and they have over 70 applications each year and enrolled 25 to 27 people. So it's successful. Obviously, it was probably a phone call too to talk to them up there and who's running it. But I thought that was interesting, and I thought something that maybe we could do here. We can always use citizen engagement.
I wanted to check my minutes from the race, and just to let you know, the race is not in May.
Yeah.
It is October 1st.
I just got a text for it. Yep. They announced it though at the Celebration of Life for me. They talked about it there, so that's fine. I know. Somebody texted me just a little bit ago. I was just checking it.
Because it gives us a little more time
Yep.
to do the things that we want to do. I have nothing else.
All right, at this time, we will open it up for public comment. And just to reiterate, there's a 3-minute time limit. And for the record, please state your name and address.
Ken Tokars, 110 South Locust, graduate of the Ypsilanti Academy, went through their program, similar to the Midland one. Here to talk about the point of sale and just some of the concerns that I have. I think it's good, but I think it's too early. I think you have other things you need to do, maybe 3-4 years down the road. Another concern is equity. I believe that the city has failed the east side, specifically with enforcement. So if you do something like this, I would ask that you maybe do it on the west side and then maybe trickle in the east side after 2 years to give homeowners some time to get their properties up to whatever code that needs to get done. Not just all of a sudden, don't do anything for 20 to 30 years and then all of a sudden drop the hammer on these people on the east side. The other concern I have is you guys are talking about bringing in a bunch of different people who have different interpretations. I do a lot of work throughout the state of Michigan and in different states, and there's different interpretations of codes. I just recently worked on a project where we removed a 40-gallon water heater from the ceiling. It was a commercial property. It was hanging from the ceiling. We put in a 20-gallon water heater hanging from the ceiling, and the inspector didn't want it there because his interpretation was that you couldn't have a drop ceiling where you'd have to have someone to take the ceiling out to get to the water heater. So we went back and forth, and basically, I had told him, look, you guys went through plan review, you approved it through plan review, and you had a 40-gallon up there before. His response was, well, I wasn't the one who did the plan review, and I didn't inspect it before. So I think that's a concern that you guys need to make sure your inspectors are on the same page. The same also goes, I worked for Adrian Public Schools, and if anybody's familiar with the letters NSF, it's National Sanitary Foundation. And basically, we redid the kitchen over there. We put in a brand new dishwasher, and the county health inspector, even though the new dishwasher had NSF stamped all over it, she wouldn't accept it. And basically, we had to make changes to existing equipment. It was ridiculous. it was ridiculous on her end. I guess I'll stop.
Hearing no more public comment, may I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned and our regular meeting will begin at 7 p.m. I call to order the Adrian City Commission meeting for February 21st, 2022. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Heath.
Present.
Commissioner Hou.
Present.
Commissioner Roberts.
Present.
Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Strayer.
Present.
Commissioner Castleberry. Present. Commissioner Gauss.
Present.
All commission members present.
At this time, we are going to be watching a video and having a moment of silence as our community has suffered a huge loss with the passing of Greg Adams. Greg was an advocate for mental health awareness beyond words in our community, as he was the founder of the Erase the Stigma 5K and was just passionate and valiant in raising awareness for mental health in our community. And his loss is going to be felt greatly for many years to come. And we just really would like to honor, as a city commission, we all feel very passionately about how much Greg did to raise that awareness and how much he did for our community. And so at this time, we'd like to share a video that was presented after shown after the 2020 Erase the Stigma race. And it just really shows the passion and the determination and everything that Greg brought to our community. And after that, we will have a moment of silence in memory of Greg Adams. We have the 5K plan and ready to go and been part of it. So a decision had to be made, and Greg, as a great board leader that he is, really went back and forth, and I know that he internally struggled with that. And he of course sought counsel and bounced it off with everyone. And at the end of the day, Greg's heart really was for community, and he believed that we could still bring the community together through this event. We couldn't physically be together, but he believed that we could still advocate on behalf of mental health in our community and bring our community together to do it. And so he pitched the idea to the board, and they unanimously accepted it and just said, you know, you're right, our community could really use this right now.
This was our 6th year for the event. We started it to raise awareness for mental health in Loudoun County to help promote wellness, because we all know that the more you exercise, walk, or run improves your mental health. I know for me that's critical to my mental health. So we decided to do the race to kind of build up that idea, and also to just promote the idea of CMH and the idea of destigmatizing mental health. So by talking about it more, inviting people being outside together in a big big area together to talk about it, that really helped make it for less destigmatized.
Hello, Troy Bevere, your Lenawee County Sheriff, representing the Sheriff's Office in this 5K virtual e-race stigma. Coming to you from Tecumseh.
We're doing it today in honor of Sean McLemore. Sean is my late boyfriend. We were together almost 7 years, and we lost him summer 2014 to depression and suicide. So the following May, ironically, was the first year that Lenawee they started their stigma 5K. Mental health awareness month. So that's something that we started, and I participate every year in honor of Sean and his family, and for all of those that are still fighting their battles.
I can't say enough great things about our community, which is why I lived here for 20 years and served here. Not a single sponsor pulled out. We gave them an option. We said, would you like us to roll it over next year? Would you like to get your funds back? Every one of them said, you keep it, you run the event, and you have our blessing. And the same thing with those that registered for the event. So we had to roll out an announcement and let them know what path we were taking. And we gave them the option of a refund. And they all, everybody said, we're in it, we'll do it. And so then we put out guidelines to do it safely and all of those kind of things. And then we just waited for a race day to arrive. And we were a little unsure, were we going to get some feedback? We were just begging for pictures. We still wanted to see people running and who was doing it and all those kind of things. We had just tremendous support from those that had ran it for years. We had new runners. We had families running together, which is so great. We love seeing it. We love seeing the kids and the dogs and all those kind of things. And then we saw those that were running in memory of someone. And when you get those videos of I'm running and this is why I'm doing it, then that's when you say this is why we had to move forward in the direction that we're moving in, because mental health challenges still exist, and even more so now, right? Because we're isolated and everyone's world is upside down. And I think one of the biggest things that most people have drawn out of COVID is that everyone was struggling. So if you're someone who doesn't normally struggle, you're now struggling. If you're someone who normally helps the person next to you that's struggling and you're struggling yourself, how do you work through that? And so just to see our community come together, to recognize that, yes, this is still worth it, regardless of what they may have been going through, they still ran and they still said that they did it in memory of somebody else, and they still supported the community and brought awareness to what, our board and our organization does within the community.
It is my personal passion for race stigma. My friends who participating in the starts today.
Things that I have seen done in our community, I encourage everyone to go to the website and just click on services. Just look at how we serve our community alone. We help youth, we help elderly, we help those that are in crisis. And that's the key right there. When you have someone, and I'm talking deep crisis, we're there. And we have advocates for them, and we have people that can help them through that crisis and then beyond.
It was very touching to see a lot of the photos. It really hits home when you see people that have been affected by mental health or know someone, and see your friends on there, people you know, supporting the cause. It's and you see people from multiple states across the country. They're all wearing shirts for previous races. That really, they're all smiling. We're really trying to be more aware, whether it be on TV or radio or print, to make people aware of what CBH offers, and people reach out to you. You're not alone. That's wellness fee.
Did our first one back pay? For saving it up, carry place there. Someone's always the same.
Thank you, Greg, for all that you did for our community. And at this time, we'll have a moment of silence for Greg. Thank you. Moving on, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. May I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Will we adopt the consent agenda?
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes.
Consent agenda approved by unanimous vote.
Moving on to the regular agenda. Resolution R22-009 is from Utilities. It is a resolution to award a bid for the purchase of a replacement pump at the Maumee Street Lift Station. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution. Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Gauss. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R22-010 is from Utilities. It is a resolution to accept the non-conforming proposal from Dixon Engineering and Inspection Services for the inspection of the 1 mg water tank on Industrial Drive. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Strayer with a second from Commissioner Halt. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R22-010 again is from administration. Should that be 11?
Yeah.
Do I have it wrong? Sorry. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Resolution R22-011 is from administration. Oh, so I have the wrong thing. Sorry. I grabbed my original on accident, obviously. Sorry about that. Resolution R22-011 is from Fire. It is a resolution to authorize the fire chief to enter into a one-year agreement with the Addison Fire Department for the use of their training facility and equipment in the amount of $1,500,000. May I get a motion to adopt?
It's
$1,500.
Oh, it's $1,500. I'm sorry, $1,500. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Support.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Miller with a second from Commissioner Strayer and Commissioner Roberts. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Strayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Resolution R22-011 is from the police. 012, sorry. I'm still looking at the wrong one, see? It is a resolution to approve a vending agreement for the Adrian Police Department and authorize the chief of police to execute said agreement. May I get a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Are there any public comments? Are there any commissioner comments? I have a motion from Commissioner Halt with a second from Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Strayer. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Castleberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Gauss,
Yes.
Mayor Heath,
Yes.
Commissioner Halt,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Strayer.
Yes.
Resolution adopted by unanimous vote.
Commissioners, there are miscellaneous reports in your packet. Are there any questions or comments on those reports? At this time, we will have public comment. Just to reiterate, there is a 3-minute time limit, and for the record, please state your name and address. And for those on Zoom, the screen will show you your time as well as in chambers. Hearing no public comments, I will now move on to commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments?
Thank you for putting that together, Mayor, at the beginning. I think we can all agree that we should put that at the end next time. And my heartfelt condolences go out to Greg and Greg's family.
And I just want to apologize when City Administrator Greg Elliott and I meet for the agenda. I must have grabbed that one instead of the newly printed agenda one I had. So I was reading off of the one that must be what I'm reading off of. So I accidentally grabbed the wrong one. So I do apologize about the little mistakes there. May I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Castleberry with a second from Commissioner Roberts and Commissioner Strayer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.